What are some of the lore locations that could become Overwatch maps in the coming months and years? Let's have a look. 2 weeks ago I did a video on which maps were confirmed to be added to Overwatch in the coming seasons. I'll leave a link below. But there are plenty of other locations that could be picked up as a stadium map or a core game map. And that could happen in the next 2 seasons. There's actually quite a lot of locations. So I want to break them up in 3 categories. Category 1, almost certain. Category 2, very likely. Category 3, would be cool. And in that first category of almost certain, there's 2.5 maps. Yeah, let me explain. There's one I want to keep in that first category, but I feel like it might be nudging towards the second. I'll come back to that in a minute. First, let me list the other 2 that are in the first category. And both of them are all 2CP maps, a game mode that was scrapped at the start of Overwatch 2. When that game mode was scrapped, a few maps also disappeared, sadly. But in the last year, Blizzard has been repurposing the art kits of those maps to make Clash maps, for instance, like in the case of Temple of Anubis and Hanamura. And now there's a stadium version of Paris. All of these reimagined maps are set on a different spot on that same location, so they feel very, very familiar. But I'm going to be honest, I still miss those OG maps. Can't help it. There's a sense of nostalgia. And yeah, I know, I can play them in the arcade once in a while. But, you know, now the only 2CP maps that did not get that same treatment up till now are Volskaya Industries in Russia, the home of Zarya, or at least a working place, I guess, and Horizon Lunar Colony, set on the moon, in case that wasn't clear. And the place where both Hammond and Winston, I'm not going to say were born, spent quite a few years. Now, I do think that we might see those 2 maps pop up as a stadium map somewhere in the coming seasons. I mean, not next season, not season 18, we know what the maps are going to be. It's going to be London and Route 66, but for season 19, we only know 1 map, the China map. So we might get an extra one, and then there's the maps in season 20. We might go back to Russia for Christmas, or to the moon, whatever. We'll find out soon enough. Now, the one map I wanted to add to that first category, but I'm not that confident about, is Gutenberg. Why did I pronounce it German? Gutenberg. Anyways, it's set in Sweden. It's the home of Torbjörn. And that was originally going to be a 2CP map till they scratched the whole game out. However, we got to see Gutenberg in the PvE missions. And that is exactly the reason why I don't feel super comfortable adding it to the first category. Because I feel like Blizzard is kind of walking in big circles around anything that was ever related to PvE. They don't want to remind us of what happened back in the day. Understandable. But look, I might be wrong and it might actually pop up as a stadium map or a Clash map somewhere in the next 2 seasons. Maybe. Other maps that are also in that very likely category are locations that have been shown off a little more in the bit of lore that we've been getting, or on other maps, or that are the homes of factions and heroes that have become more relevant in the last few months. Like Utopia. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's not Utopia, but Utopia. Yeah, it's the home city of Symmetra and of the Vishka Corporation. Well, actually, it's the Vishka Corporation that built all of it. Now, all over Suravasa, the Flashpoint map, you can see posters promoting Utopia. And they kind of paint it as a place of light and prosperity. But it smells so fishy. It really feels like something is going on. The Vishka Corporation is up to something. Much like Helix Securities, by the way. But we already got plenty of Egyptian maps, and now we got the Moroccan map. I think we're settled when it comes to that region. At least for now. However, Utopia actually sounds like a very interesting place. Much like the Atlantic Ecology, which was actually confirmed to be released somewhere in the next 2 seasons. We know that for certain. That was part of my previous video. But both of them are self-sufficient cities, built by very smart people, from the ground up. Like, it's not a city that naturally kind of evolved. Now, it was purposely built by the same people. Now, the ecology on one end is a bit of a safe haven for the arts and for science. It was started by former Overwatch people. It has that kind of open and accepting vibe to it, but also rebellious. Utopia, that feels more like a corporate hellhole. A corporate construct might be a better word. It's almost like they're polar opposites, but they're just as marvelous when it comes to engineering, science, both very impressive places. 2 sides to 1 coin. So So, would make sense if both get added. Now, future maps can also be the homes of certain heroes. Heroes that were added before, but also some of the newer heroes. I, for instance, would like to see a map set in Scotland, the home country of Hazard. It is a very unique place. Rugged, beautiful landscapes, a lot of history. It's a very different location from anything we've seen in Overwatch up till now. And it is the house of Nessie, so come on. How about Denmark for Freya? Although I think that might be a little too close to Gutenberg. I mean, Sweden and Denmark are very different countries, but there are also quite a few similarities. And while Overwatch does their best to kind of respect those unique elements to these locations, I don't know. Might be a little too close. Now, when we're talking about similar locations, one location that would be extremely funny to add is Fiji. However, that would be too close to Samoa, both geographically, although those islands are actually over 1,000 kilometers apart from each other. That is a lot. I mean, London and Paris are about, 350 kilometers apart. That's 3 times as much, but yet we perceive them to be fairly close to each other because they're in a vast ocean. The thing is, though, they tend to look alike a little bit. Again, there are definitely differences, but when you bring it back to an environment for a game, they might be too similar. However, the one reason I would add it is for Anna, because she misses that place, in case you haven't been able to tell. She's talking about it constantly. It's like me and Grace, just constantly Fiji, Fiji, Fiji. I know how she feels. By the way, I know Sigma has spent a lot of time in space with all his research and whatnot, and then he was imprisoned or institutionalized. That's the word. And then Talon got to grab your hands on him. But can we maybe see a Dutch map at some point? That would kind of be cool. On the other hand, while we're talking about space, the Mars colony, the birthplace of Juno. And for as far as we know, the place where her parents and their colleagues are still struggling and fighting to survive. Seriously, Juno has been on Earth for almost a year now. I can't shake the feeling that she's not putting in a lot of effort to go save her parents. Am I the only one that noticed that? I don't know. But seriously, they can make Horizon, Lunar Colony, the moon map into a stadium map. Would be cool. However, I want to wish the best of luck to those people in that floating arena up there. There's going to be a bit of an oxygen problem. But a new core game mode on Mars? That would be a nice way to try that whole space team again. But with something different, something unique. I don't know. Now, the next map is also a very unique location. And it also is the first location in the would be cool category. So rather unlikely that it's going to happen, but fun to talk about. Remember that underwater map that Aaron Keller designed back in 2023 with the help of the community on Twitch? Talantis, it was called. It was completely underwater. Now, they released that map for a limited time event a few months later, I think. It was a little wacky, but the idea of an underwater map is still very interesting. And it doesn't look like the Atlantic ecology is going to be set underwater, so there's still an opening there. I know there's quite a few players that would like to see that project, that map, being finalized, adjusted, improved, and then released as a map. Just kind of having that same type of deal going on. The sunken city with huge fishes swimming around. That was cool. Other popular requests I've seen is a null-sector base. Maybe an old Omnic. Anything that is related to the Omnics. Because we've seen those Omnics attack us in our own hometowns. But where do they live? Where do they retreat after all the killing and the plundering? Where do they go to read a book or to play soccer with their kids? We'll show them how it feels to just drop in and start shooting up the place. There's also that old Swiss Overwatch base that people have been requesting to see as a map one day. The thing is, that is basically a huge pile of rubble because it all exploded. I don't know if that is going to be the most interesting location. Could be different. My favorite lore-based location, however, in this category is Watchpoint Grimsvatn. I think I pronounced that pretty good. Grimsvatn. It is set on a volcano on Iceland. Actually, a volcano that is under a glacier. It is a research base and a high-security prison for the most dangerous individuals on the planet. And that is the place where they kept Doofus for the longest time, till he punched a hole in the wall, suddenly realizing that that was an option, and Reaper picked him up. Yeah, those were times. Now, before the Petrus Act was signed, that was also the location where they held the rogue god programs, like Anubis is one, but there are supposedly more of them. Now, after the Petrus Act, those were all moved to the Atlantic ecology. But I still think there's a lot going on at Grimsvatn. I think it would be a very cool location, dark, very lore heavy. There's so many stories they can tell there. So many Easter eggs they can plant. Oh, I would have a blast discovering a map like that. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I really hope I'm wrong about this one. But that was my list, for now at least. I'll most likely pick this topic up again, I don't know, in 8 to 12 months, as I do every year. So yeah, stick around, make sure to subscribe. But tell me, what location would you like to see in Overwatch 2? Let me know in the comments. For now, however, that was it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It always helps me out. I also want to thank my patrons and YouTube members. You too can become a member over on patreon.com/theomnicpost and right here on YouTube to unlock exclusive rewards. If you have a few minutes left, maybe check out one of my other videos. But above all, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye bye.